You're listening to Simple Roots Radio, episode number 185. And today is another episode of the Ennea Health series, and we're breaking down Enneagram Type 3.
Welcome to Simple Roots Radio with Alexa Sherm. Alexa believes that simplicity in life is the key to achieving true and lasting health. And now your host, Alexa Sherm.
Welcome back to this podcast. As always, my name's Alexa, and this is the place to get healthy, live happy, and find more joy. I'm so pumped that you're here and you're joining us on this journey of learning about the Enneagram and how that can specifically help us in our health journey. Now, the whole reason that I'm doing this is because I've learned that in a world of rules and standards and diets, there is no one-size-fits-all approach. And that's unfortunate because it would be so much easier if I could just give you the rules and it would work to help make you happy and healthy and reach all your weight goals, right? Like that would be so simple, but it's not. And that's why we're still here in the same health fight that's been going on for generations and generations. And I just think that there has to be a simpler way. Now, I'm not saying that the Enneagram is the end-all be-all to that, but what I am saying is that we all have a unique type to us, like a unique personality under the surface, and the only way to make health last is to make sure that it's realistic for you. And one way to do that is just to know, how do you work? Who are you? And how can we form health into that? Like, how can we make health not just something you do, but who you are? And that's what we're diving into in this Ennea Health series. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to know the full reason we're in this series and what it has to do with self-care, my redefinition of self-care, you've got to head back to the first episode of the series. That was episode number 180. So just head back there, dive into that, learn a little bit more about self-care and how it's not probably what you think, another benchmark or a standard, but really knowing yourself deeply enough to know what it is your body needs. And then just follow along and listen to the other types. Now, if you're listening in and you are a type 3, this episode's all for you, helping you to come up with some new solutions, new ideas, new rhythms to set to help make you a healthier human. If you're not a type 3, this can be good information to get to know other people in your lives who are. Like my husband is a type 3, I am not, so I don't live this way, but it really gave me good insight into why he does the things that he does and what he really does need to be encouraged to live a healthy life. I'm an Enneagram type 2 with a wing of a 1, so I like to reform people and help people, and that can come across really harsh sometimes, especially to my family members. So this series is great for me and learning how I can better help other people who are not like me. So you're welcome. This is partly for me and helping you as well. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you listen to all the episodes. Again, today is all about type 3, which is known as the achiever or the performer. But before we get into today's episode, I do want to remind you that you can find all of the notes for the Enneagram series over in the show notes. I also am giving out a free download for every single type. So we have type 1's download already over there, type 2, and today will be type 3. And inside this free download, it actually walks you through some of the strengths you have that you should rely on, some simple and practical steps that you could take into your life to be healthier, journaling prompts to maybe help you understand why you're doing the things that you do, and are they true to you, and some other fun stuff. Like each download is pretty in-depth, thorough. Make sure you print it off and fill it out, like do it and implement it into your life. So that's my help with that. So make sure you head to the show notes. Today's show notes can be found at simplerootswellness.com/185. Also, one more announcement before we get into the show. This whole series is sponsored by a company that I've fallen in love with named Joovv. Now, Joovv is a red light therapy device, which if you've been listening, then you kind of know the background. Well, I wanted to change up what I said about Joovv in this episode because I think it's important that you know that this isn't just me getting sponsors by other companies, but this is me believing in them enough to tell you about them. And it just so happens to help cover the cost of the podcast. So it's a bonus on both ends. But Joovv is a company that I really do love. And I think red light therapy is going to become more well-known and widespread across all medical communities. And the reason I say that is because there's phenomenal research coming out about the impacts that red light has on a cellular level, especially with Joovv as it combines infrared light. So red light therapy is just a specific wavelength that acts inside the cells to help repair it, to replenish it, to provide energy, really to give your cells a boost and provide the right environment for your cells to thrive. So of course, with that being the bonus of that, right, you're going to experience all kinds of wonderful side effects like better skin, better hair, better nails, more energy, less brain fog, less inflammation, better lymphatic flow. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Honestly, I looked at a lot of devices because Joovv is an investment. But I'll tell you that after looking and researching for months and months and months about other red light therapy devices, I found Joovv's to be the most reliable and to actually have the right wavelength. Because just because red light is red doesn't mean it has the specific wavelength that red light therapy needs in order to be effective. So it's important to be careful about that. Plus, like I said, Joovv combines that with infrared light, which is so healing at a deeper level. So it really has the best of both worlds. So stay tuned for that. But if you want to learn more about Joovv, head on over to joovv.com/simpleroots to learn more and enter my name at checkout to get a free gift. Okay, so check out Joovv. Also check out the show notes where you can learn more about today's episode. But for now, let's get right to type 3. Like I said, my husband is a type 3, and I've had some resistance in learning about type 3 because what's fascinating is that I'm a type 2 and he's a type 3. Now, if we look at the Enneagram, then we know that type 2 is one of the most relational feeling types on the Enneagram. Like type 2s feel everything tenfold. On the other extreme, type 3s are the most detached from their feelings of any other type on the Enneagram. So you can probably start to see some of our marriage issues has stemmed from this inability to communicate emotions, me being overly emotional to compensate for his lack or his detachment of emotions. And I'm not saying that one way is right or wrong. We're working through this. But it has been fascinating as I've learned about the Enneagram and even looking at him and his health journey to really see how impactful this information can be firsthand. So, if you're type 3, I hope this resonates with you on some level. Now remember, we're not all the same in any specific type. I'm much different than other type 2s, but we all have similar characteristics, and at some point, I hope that you can relate to one of these components. So a type 3, and these are the achiever, the performer, the status keeper. They're in the heart triad, so they're deep feelers, but they're also very detached from their feelings. And instead of feeling that, they often tend to channel their detachment into getting things done. Like they want to achieve and perform and to reach their accomplishments. Like they're great about setting goals and hitting them. Now, type 3s tend to be adaptable, they're driven, they're focused, they're efficient, they're charismatic, and they have this impressive ability to put aside their personal feelings, like I said, about a situation and accomplish goals in an efficient and practical manner. Like, type 3s are the get it done, the spark plugs of the Enneagram type. And they do this all because they envision making the world a more efficient place. Like they really do want to better the world as any Enneagram type does in their own unique way. But on the flip side, Enneagram 2s tend to also be very image conscious, and it can be a driving force. And why they set goals and accomplish them is because they feel like the way to get love is through accomplishments. The way to get known and to be seen and recognized is through the ability to perform and to do it to the best of their ability. So as you can imagine, 3s tend to have a huge fear of failure and often put on a lot of different masks based on different situations to make people love them. In the world of health, what you need to know about an Enneagram Type 3 is that they are very externally driven. They don't have a lot of internal awareness, and if they do, they don't often listen to it. So what I mean by that is that they want externally for people to view them as put together, as accomplished, as on top of their game, right? They want to look their best externally, even if that goes against how they're feeling internally. So Type 3s actually are one of the most detached emotionally. So type 3s, which is pretty cool in the eating world, is that they can detach from emotional eating. Like type 3s don't look at food as emotional. They're very detached from what they do. The same can go for exercise. Like they can detach their mind from that, and they have this incredible mental strength to have this vision of where they want to get, and they will push through immense amount of pain and suffering in order to get themselves there. So in the health world, this can be a huge weakness and a huge strength, right? The strength is that they are driven, they want to look good externally, which done in the right way can mean great things for the internal health of our body, right? But they're very physique oriented. On the other hand, though, that they can put off how they actually feel, like all their self-awareness cues, all these symptoms that are happening, an effort to just accomplish something else. So they can push through pain when they're working out. They don't tend to care about blood markers or statistics that are happening inside the body. And therefore, they really do tend to be the people who build and build and build and build and build, even though they look really great on the outside, or they often do. They can build all this tension and unrest and stress inside their body, and it can turn out to be really, really damaging. So let's get back to some strengths to keep this positive, right? Type 3s are great at framing and visualizing things. So if we can transition their view of health in the right direction, 3s are really great about achieving that. Too often, though, 3s have a bad vision of what true health looks like, and they're trying to reach something that's unrealistic or even unhealthy. But they're great at framing visualization. They're great at mission statements, so knowing why they do certain things. They're great at taking action. They're highly active. They have a strong ability to resist temptation, and they're very highly disciplined. They focus on goals and recognition. They want to win, and they work hard, like harder than most. Like if you're going to go the extra mile, it's going to be a type 3. Now, on the flip side to that, their weaknesses are they tend to measure themselves only by the achievements they possess, and they will beat their bodies into submission in order to achieve what they want to achieve. Obviously, you can see the weakness there because we can never beat our body into submission. So they very much have this challenge going on based on their mindset and this need to achieve versus their body and how it's actually feeling. So my goal with this is that we could combine those for type 3s and get you to create the mindset of achieving to work with your body. Like your greatest achievement is going to know your body and to love and respect your body enough to work with it. And therefore, you'll have the ability to accomplish so much more. Other weaknesses is that you tend to be highly focused on image, specifically body image and how you look, which can lead to quick diets, cleanses, just enormous amount of eating disorders, over exercising. This can all come and is common with type 3s. You tend to be hard on yourself. You fail to listen to your body. You have a superficial emotional life. You can push aside relationships and other aspects of health in order to reach goals. And while one strength is you tend to be highly focused, if you put all your focus onto one thing, it can actually lead to doom in all the other things in your life. You tend to neglect your inner child, neglect your emotions, and become what others expect of you or what you perceive others to expect of you. Now, I don't want that to sound like too downer because 3s tend to already be hard on themselves, especially if they're not meeting goals. So I want to help you not to take away this idea of meeting and reaching goals, but to use it in the right mindset. So we're going to try to reframe your mind and your view of health in this podcast to make it one of true health, realistic health, something that you can achieve, and not just health in the diet and exercise world, because 3s, you of all Enneagram types, tend to look at health as simply how much you can exercise and how well you can eat. Like you want to do it to the best of your ability, that you don't leave a lot of room to actually live life. We're going to talk about that as we create a new health vision for you in this podcast. So as I mentioned, 3s, you tend to be one of the most unemotional and practical about food, which can be really, really, really useful in the health world. But on the other hand, your strong desire to control your physique can create this repulsion to food if it's contrary to you looking a certain way. Like, you will do the diets, you will do all the things, the keto, all the things in order to look a certain way. And you will get extremely frustrated in that if it doesn't happen the way that you want, or you don't feel like you're achieving the things that you want. And it will come back on you as a failure. And it will create this sort of masking that you have, where you just continuously mask yourself and someone else because it's scary to uncover the true emotions and where that drive is stemming from. Like, threes are fixated on body image, and this creates a bad view of what overall health is. So while you naturally bend towards wanting to do things their best way, and you have this view of eating and of health as being just simply related to how you look, this can be really, really hard because it's not realistic and it's not sustainable. So in a model world, right, like where this goes perfectly, you're able to eat only pure, whole, and nutritious foods all of the time without being stressed out about it or sacrificing your social life. But that's not what eating well means. Like, you're very, I don't want to say all or nothing, but you're very disciplined and to the point that eating well in the scope of what the world tells you looks like well can be extremely frustrating. Again, adding more mask to losing yourself in that. So how do we redefine what the best way to eat well means? To me, I think that a 3 has to look at eating well as a life where you keep nutrient-dense foods and whole foods on hand so that you can provide the nutrients to achieve what you want to achieve, like keep your body high functioning. But you also have to add in the part of life where food is not just for energy and nourishment, but it's also for enjoyment. A life where there's enough grace to balance to give your body a green smoothie and perhaps even a bite of cookie dough in the same day. Where you eat protein because it sustains you, fruit because you enjoy it, and tea because it gives you energy. Like, you eat because it gives you what you need, not to make you look a certain way. And that's one big point that 3s I want you to take away from this. Like, you eat because it gives you what you need, because it makes you feel good internally, not to make you look a certain way. To look at food from a place of nourishment rather than what it can do for your life, rather than how other people will view you. So really, 3s, what we need to do is, I want you to get outside of all of these pressure and this weight and the perceptions of other people, and I want you to come back to a place of just who you are. And I think the best way, and maybe the only way for 3s to do this, is to create space in their life to just be without anyone else. Like, to be in stillness and aloneness, and to seek time to just redefine who they are. And this is really, really, really hard for 3s. And I say this as we've been talking about health and even exercise. But I think the reality with 3s is that you can so easily detach, right? You have all of these feelings. You're in the heart triad. You feel all the feels, but you suppress them, and you just continuously build this tension looking for outside approval. But what you really need is to come to a place where you find out who you are. So you no longer have to work at doing, but you can just be content being. And that's a powerful statement, right? Like, that you can separate yourself from just doing things all the time to feel loved, and you can just simply be loved because of who you are. It sounds like a big feat for 3s, but this is really the place where 3 gets healthy. And when I bring up all of my health suggestions, it's going to go back to this. Because 3s, you have so much going for you. You're disciplined. You have a detachment from the emotions of food. You want to do well. You want to look better. You want to live in health. Like, you have a very great view, if used in health, of what that means. We just have to rebalance your focus. And this focus thing with 3s is a big deal. Because here's what happens with unhealthy 3s, is that unhealthy 3s tend to start putting all their eggs in one basket. Like, as a 3 in health, they have a lot of different aspects of life, right? Whether their faith and their family and their work and their health and their personal life and their friends and their finances. Like, there's a lot of spokes of health, right? You've heard people talk about that, the spokes of health. And 3s if left in balance, do a phenomenal job achieving at all of them. That's why threes tend to be, honestly, the most sought after human being. Like, people are the most jealous of Enneagram type threes because you look like you got it all together and you can achieve well. Like, you can get it done faster than most people can, and you do it well and you make it look good. So I think you got to give yourself some credit. And when you balance yourself out to look at all aspects of life and you put energy and effort into each one, maybe equally, some more than others, right? I think that's where you start to see a three live in true health. The problem, like I said, with threes is this idea of focus. And threes tend to get tunnel vision and start to focus only on one or two things, right? They start to put all of their eggs in one basket. And this is where we start to see problems creep in for threes. Threes often tend to put all their eggs in the work basket. Like, if we were going to name a workaholic type, it would be Enneagram types threes. They can push off relationships, whether in their faith or their marriage or their kids, all in hopes that in achieving something, they can gain the respect of someone else. And I see that aspect, and I don't want to diminish that need for respect and love. But what I do want you to understand is that if you've put all of the eggs in one basket, you've essentially let everything else go. And this is really hard for a three because you put all your energy in one basket, but you don't necessarily want to let everything else go, but you see it letting go and you don't know how to get it back. And so you work harder at the one thing, hoping that will bring you back into balance, but it won't. So sometimes you got to step back from that one thing you put all your eggs in, and you have to start redistributing that. You have to slowly get back to working out. You have to slowly getting back to eating well and doing it with the right mindset. Doing it from a place of, I'm just going to be true to who I am, not to impress someone else. And I think there are great ways to take what you, like this achiever in you, and make it healthy outside of impressing someone else. And I think that's probably the biggest point with a three, is that you have to stop working for love. You have to stop looking to impress and instead use your desire to achieve to help other people, to be true to who you are and what you really believe in. And that's what I hope threes know. So threes, in general, you need to start redistributing your eggs. And if you don't, this leads to an immense amount of tension. Like, threes tend to start storing all of their tension around their chest cavity, and it can cause heart problems, heart attacks. Like, this stuff has been studied, and it's phenomenal that type threes tend to contain the most heart attacks at an early age. Which is startling, but again, you can start to see how they just suppress and suppress and suppress and push down, and the tension just builds and builds and builds and builds. Like, we can never suppress our problems because they'll always follow us around. We have to learn to let them out. And there are lots of ways to do that. And we're going to talk about that. And one of the ways is just simply for threes to practice self-care. Threes, I'm sorry to say it, but you're self-care challenged, like you are. So it's time to be gentle with yourself, to listen to your needs and engage in self-care activities that will sustain you and heal you physically and mentally. Not to reach a goal. I think that you can have different aspects of your life where you are reaching a goal or where you are trying to achieve something because that's how you're naturally driven. But you need to balance that out with space to just be, to heal and to sustain alone. And this time should look like processing through the stress that has pressured you into this spiral that's kind of caused you to get out of control or out of balance. And start to ask yourself, like, what is it that's really stressing me out? And on the other hand, what can I do to fix this? And all while you ask that question, I don't think you need to just rush to fix it, but I think in the midst of that, you have to learn to slow down enough to care for your body. Like, care for it in a way that you care without an agenda of what the workout looked like, of how hard it was, or what you accomplished, without asking your body to look better or for approval from someone else. Like, you simply have to take the time to connect and pay attention. Like, you can take time to nourish yourself. And this is the most important thing for a three to regain balance in their life, is to nourish themselves. And it might not look like it's going to achieve anything in this instant gratification world that we live in. Like 3s, you are up against a lot because you are the epitome of what the world looks for as the dream life, right? You have the accomplishments, you have the physique, you tend to have all the things because you've accomplished all the things, right? Like you're like trying to swim up a current on a fast moving river. Like I see that and I get that. So I think you daily have to have grace enough to rest and just be you. Like focus on being rather than doing, because you'll naturally do all the things. But if you don't focus on just being first, you're never going to heal the way that you need to heal. So how can we do this? So here are some practical tips that I can give you to help you on this journey. So when it comes to exercise, I think it's important that you can compete and you can sign up for races, but I think that they have to be private. They have to be done for you, right? So you tend to be the people who like to sign up for triathlons or road races or some place that you can compete. You're naturally competitive, which is great. And I think it's important for a 3 to stay active. And that activity can help balance you out throughout the day. Like it sounds counterintuitive to say like you're going to have more energy when you burn more energy. But it's so true. Like the more 3 can stay active, especially first thing in the morning, the more likely you are to put an emphasis or rebalance your life, like to put more focus in your relationships and your faith and the other extracurricular activities in your life. So stay active. You can sign up for a competition, but again, it's not to impress other people. When it comes to eating, you have to start really paying attention to feeling good, not just getting the job done, but what foods make me feel good. And this is just an awareness key. And I think the way to do this is that 3s, you need to focus on sitting down to eat your meals without distraction. And I know this is hard because you're going to want to eat while you work or eat while you read or eat on the go because that's how you're designed to go, 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 go. Like you're the spark plug of the Enneagram types. But it's important to just at least start with one meal a day where you just sit down and you take a few minutes and you start questioning, how does this make me feel? Like you have to challenge yourself and to be conscious enough about being aware of what your body's telling you because naturally you just won't pick up on that. Like you can detach yourself to those feelings. You can suppress them to the point where you can get yourself really sick and really unhealthy. So you constantly need to start being aware. And I think, like I said, one way to do that is just to sit down and eat without distraction. Also, I think that there needs to be periods of your life where you just enjoy food for being food, that you're not always so practical about it and that you can eat because you enjoy it. You can eat because it's relational and social, but you can also show yourself that you can eat to nourish. And creating this balance only comes through the awareness. So starting to develop that awareness will help you enjoy the eating experience more. Also, make sure your goals align. Like make sure that your focus isn't just on work, but maybe start to put some more emphasis back into the other categories of your life. Because even if you start to redistribute into the faith category or into your marriage or into a relationship with your friend or even a hobby, what that can do for you is help redistribute all the eggs out and refocus. Like I said, you don't have to focus on all the areas, but you tend to live in the snowball effect where if you start doing one thing and enjoying it, it makes you feel better. You want more and more and more of that. So again, refocus yourself and pick one thing that you've let go of, that you've lost focus of, and get back to working on that. And also work out alone. Like when it comes to exercise, I think it's great for Enneagram type 3s to work out alone and to do things alone at least once or twice a day, whether it's eating a meal alone or, like I said, working out alone can be really huge for an Enneagram type 3 because that takes away this need to compete with other people. And you might think, well, I don't get as good of a workout or I'm not getting as strong. That's fine for right now, but as you're learning to refocus and unmask yourself from the mask that you've created, I think it's important that you take this space to find yourself and listen to your boundaries and what your body's saying and learn from that. And as you get healthier, I think that healthy competition can be such a great thing that a 3 can utilize for health. Now for lifestyle, Threes like a variety. Like, you get bored easily, you're movers and shakers, you like to start up, like you're a great self-starter. So don't get stuck doing the same things repetitively, but try new things, whether it's in your diet or your exercise program or in your life. Maybe if you put too much focus in work, take an adventure, like plan a vacation and commit to going without your work. But like create spontaneity in your life, because you tend to be so focused on your goals that you can lose sight of living. Like, you're very much in the mindset of, I'll do X, Y, and Z when I reach A, B, and C. So we have to stop waiting to live and start living in the moment. So in order to do this, I think that you have to take space for yourself. When we talked about self-care, you have to be willing to slow down, to do something for yourself, to be alone. And this is incredibly hard for a 3, I think, is just to create space in your day, because for you, there's always work to be done. There's always goals to be achieved. And creating space doesn't seem like it's going to help you. But I think that there really is this idea to less is more, and that in doing less, sometimes you can accomplish more. And it all comes back to filling yourself rather than just constantly trying to fix your life or to accomplish things to get approval. And when you start to fill yourself, you not only start to create more energy and space, but you also can release the mask that wastes so much energy in your life. So you have to find space in your everyday life, whether it's journaling, whether it's exercising alone, whether it's taking a hot bath at the end of the night, or going walks by yourself. Every single day, you do need to include something that is just with you, yourself, and I. No phones, no TV, no self-help books, but just space to be. Also, other lifestyle things is that 3s, you tend to be the most detached from your emotions, but you also are highly emotional. So it's not like you're just letting these emotions go, like you're not even feeling them. You are feeling them and you are hoarding them. And even though you might not want to admit it, they're there, and you're so easily suppressed, even your inner child and things that have happened in the past, that eventually they all catch up with you, and they can make you sick, they can make you lose yourself, they can make you kind of fall into a midlife crisis. 3s, you've got to deal with these emotions, and I think that you have to find a safe place to have someone help you dig them up. Like, I would like to tell you that friendships and relationships can do this, but I really think on some level 3s should be seeking some kind of professional therapy, because I think it's the safest place for a 3 to open up when you have a fear of what other people are going to think of you. But I also feel like for a 3, you don't even know that you've suppressed all these emotions, and so you need to have someone help you dig them up. Like, you're so detached from your emotions, you don't even know that you have the emotions, but they're there. They are. And so you have to go to someone who can help you uncover those and really start to let them go. And really, that's the only way you're going to let the mask off and let yourself be true to you. And the only way you're going to be really healthy in all areas of life and really achieve the purpose that you've set out to be, that you've been purposed to have, is to be true to yourself. Like, I think 3s are constantly fighting the unmasking that their body wants to go through while trying to constantly put the mask on to be who they think that they need to be. Like, your body and your mind are in constant argument. Like, it's a constant war, and you have to come back to a place of together. And I really do think 3s need to do the work. And some of you are like, no, like, I can't. But there's real power there, and I don't say that lightly. Also, a few other things, I know I'm getting long here, but review your goals. Like, make sure your goals and what you've set really align with what you believe personally. Are these things you actually want to do? Are these things that you think you need to do because other people told you need to do them? They're two distinct things, and one will lead to absolute devastation when you reach them. Or, on the other hand, it can lead to some of the most fulfilling moments of your life, and they're actually from you. So I think you have to constantly reevaluate, why am I doing this action? Is this for me and for what I really believe and I love? Or is this because I want to impress or make other people feel a certain way about me? You constantly have to challenge your thoughts And again, you're so detached that this isn't something that you want to do because it's just natural to please other people, but you have to just live in that awareness. And over time, you'll be more sensitive to it. Like, you retrain your brain literally to be more aware of that. It takes time. Like, you're not going to feel a difference right away, but the action in time will create that feeling. And I think the last thing that I want to say is, like, you have to decide for yourself what is important. And threes, you tend to let other people decide this for you. Often threes become threes because of some feeling when they were younger that they were only loved by what they did. And we all have something in our childhood that is that. And that's sad and alarming to a lot of people, but it's just the perception of how you felt loved as a child, a perception. And everyone's going to perceive things in different ways, right? But at some point, you have to start to understand, okay, this is what I am acting on that seems important, right? Like, this is what I've created as important, but it's not really what I think is important. Like, threes, you have to tap back into your values. And if you want help doing this, I'm going to attach another download and your episode to help you understand your values. But you have to go back to your values and understand, okay, this seemed important because this is what I was taught was important, but that's not important to me. What is important to me is X, Y, and Z. Like, get back to who you are and put more focus and more of your goals and more of your energy into those, because like I said, it will help all areas of your life to feel more balanced and that you can feel more loved, not for what you've done or what you've accomplished, but by simply being you. So threes, I want you to know that you are not loved because of what you do, but who you are. Like, just you as you are. And don't ever forget that. Okay, threes, that was a lot. I know I'm going to cut myself off, but I'm getting more and more passionate about what the Enneagram can uncover and hopefully help you to recognize, okay, this is why I don't feel fulfilled. This is why I don't feel healthy. And the stress is mounting and I feel so uneasy. And here are some practical ways that I can actually create more balance and wholeness in my life. So, like I said, I know it's a lot, but if you want the download, that's going to explain everything, and the blog post where I just go more in depth into the practical steps that you can take, head on over to the show notes at simpleritswellness.com/185. All of that's there. In the next episode, I interview a real life Enneagram 3. It's not my husband, it's someone else, so you can get a better perspective of what the Enneagram type 3 looks like, some challenges, hurdles, but also how she has learned to use her Enneagram type and come to a place of health within that. So we're going to dive all into that. You're going to want to stay tuned for the real life perspective of what I've talked about here in the next episode. Also, don't forget, if you haven't listened to the other episodes in the series, head on over to episode number 180 and start there. And one last thing, if you're loving the Ennea Health series, I would appreciate it if you would share this with other people. Literally, you guys have given me so much feedback on this series, and I'm so ecstatic that you are loving it as much as I am. But in order to help other people find it who wouldn't otherwise hear about it, make sure you take a screenshot of the episode, leave it on social media, write a comment about it, share it with your friends and family, or just head on over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. You can find this in 2.2 seconds if you just go to simpleritswellness.com/review and drop a rating and review. You only have to do it once. It means the world to me. Take you less than 2 minutes, and I read every single review. But what this does is it helps show iTunes that other people are loving this podcast, and therefore it shows it to more and more people. Like, my whole mission is that we can make health not just something that we do, but who we are, and I hope to share that with as many people as I can. So thank you so much for loving on me, for encouraging me, supporting this, and I hope with all that I am, that I'm providing you with valuable tools that you can go out and live the healthiest life possible. So thank you so much for sharing. Head to the show notes, and I will see you back here in the next episode with the special interview with an Enneagram 3.